We're all consumers of businesses, and the beauty of subscription is you don't have to own or build anything yourself, but you have the ability to get what you want on demand whenever you want, so you can focus on your free time doing the things that you like.
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle, now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
I mean, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts, costs 15 times the price.
Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and the amazing relationship between them. I'm Mark Stiving, and today we continue the season of subscription, a series of several podcasts focused on the subscription business model. And I got to tell you, I'm very excited about our guest today, Natalie Louie. Here are three things you absolutely need to know about Natalie. First, she's currently the Director of Product Marketing at Hired, a subscription-based business. What excites me even more is she was the head of Oracle Marketing Cloud Pricing Operations, a subscription-based business. Her education was in hotel management. Not a subscription-based business, but it probably could be if we thought about it hard enough. And then really fascinating, she has twin sons, and so do three other of her relatives. Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for that introduction. I'm excited to be here.
This is going to be fun. So how did you get into pricing?
Yeah, so pricing kind of found me and became I call it my superpower and my toolkit over time. It just followed me naturally. You know, it started with my time in college, right? I learned about pricing in the hospitality space when it comes to how do you price a hotel room, plane tickets, menus on a restaurant, drinks, services. I go to a restaurant and I don't look at a menu the same way anymore. And then I worked in consulting, investment sales.
Wait, we'll go back.
Yeah.
So that's got to be fascinating because the great thing is you get to change prices frequently on a menu or on a hotel room and
Correct.
See what happens.
Yep. It's something, I mean, you look at hotel companies and revenue management is a role and it's a department where you're constantly working your hotel inventory. You've got a rack rate, you've got your business travelers, you've got your vacationers. You know, some hotels sell their leftover inventory to Priceline, right? That's where you go and bid blindly on a hotel room. You don't know where you're going to stay. That's probably your remnant inventory that you want to get rid of. And so there's a whole different pricing world out there when it comes to different products and different markets.
That would be fun to play in. Okay, now we're moving on.
Yep. Then I started working in investment sales, private equity, worked at a hedge fund, and there I was always valuing and pricing all of our investments. How much is it worth, right? If we own a collection of hotels, office buildings, what's the hotel room worth or what's that lease worth? How much do you sell that office space for? And then it goes into what's the value of our investment? When do we sell it? What's that worth? What's someone willing to pay for it? So there's a huge pricing and valuation component for my finance days that I did for more than 10 years. And so when I pivoted over to tech, that kind of became my superpower of the ability to do valuations, finance, looking at numbers, understanding the data, the numbers behind how you figure out what valuation is, and also the art behind it, meaning understanding your competitors, the market, the geography that you're in, the vertical or the business that you're in, how your customers look at things, and bringing together that art and science to figure out pricing. So when I made my move into tech, I started in product marketing, and then pricing naturally landed in my lap because I looked at it and I said, I can figure this out. I can do it better than everyone that's currently doing it.
Would it be fair to say, based on what you just described to me, that every time you set a price, you think about valuation, you come back to what's somebody willing to pay for this?
Yes, that's a huge component of it. That's a part of the equation and something that we have to understand. What are they willing to pay? What are their alternatives? Can they build it themselves? Are there competitors that they're going to and getting pricing from? Or is it, no decision? So they're making the decision and the buying power, and we have to understand where they're coming from and what they're thinking. Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, continuing.
Yeah, so from that, I started working in the tech space, and I was able to just bring together all of this experience in pricing and valuations and other spaces and apply it to tech. And so I did that at Responsis. When Oracle purchased them, I continued to do it. Now, after Oracle, I'm doing it. I've probably advised on pricing and looked at, 35 to 40 different SaaS companies, ones companies that we acquired or companies that we partnered with or that we white labeled pricing with, in terms of studying competitors, 3-4x that, probably over 100 different SaaS subscription models. So many different metrics flying through my head.
Nice. Well, let's jump into this whole world of subscription. What is different or unique about subscription pricing?
I really like subscription, and I'll start really kind of from the buy side as a consumer, right? We're all consumers of businesses, and the beauty of subscription is you don't have to own or build anything yourself, but you have the ability to get what you want on demand whenever you want. So you can focus on your free time doing the things that you like, or if you're a business, focus on the core of your business. So things like Netflix, I don't need to own or buy movies. I can watch what I want on demand. Spotify, get the music that I want on demand. Lime, I don't have to own a bike. I don't have to repair it. I can go use one on demand. Same with Zipcar. You look at the business side, right? From marketing automation to ERP, enterprise resource planning, or even in the HR space, ATS, applicant tracking systems. I don't have to build that myself and maintain it and fix it and own it. I can pay a monthly subscription. And the benefit here is someone else is owning it, storing it, updating it, knowing what my preferences are and my needs are, and how they change, and they're evolving that product for me. So it's what I want whenever I want. And then I can predict my budget, right? I know what my monthly or annual spend is.
Yeah, I want to pause you for a second. And I'm not 100% sure I agree with this, but it's because I haven't unpacked it, or maybe because I'm a lot older than you are. But I think there are things I want to own. I don't want just the function. I certainly agree that there are a lot of people that are moving towards the give me the functionality. I don't need the product. And I just haven't unpacked that in my head yet. I need more work to do that.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true, right? So there are things that you want to own and you love. You're a voracious reader. You love books. You like holding a book, flipping those pages, right? You're going to own books. You're not going to go use the Kindle, right? Or do kind of ebooks, but you want to buy books. But then there's certain areas that you don't have an interest on and it becomes a chore. So potentially cooking, you don't like cooking. So why not get a subscription where they drop off your food? I don't want to go and buy music, and every time it moves from a CD player to a DVD, I've got to replace all of that. I'm not that into music. I just want the music that I want. So I'm not saying, right, everything in your life should be replaced by subscription, but if you go and replace things in your life that you see as chores and you go and find a subscription model, it makes it easier. I've got kids. Toys are like brimming out of our house all over the place. There's a company that does a toy subscription. As they grow, they send appropriate toys relevant to their age. After they're done, I ship it and I give it back. I don't have to worry about buying the toys, storing them, keeping them. I can just get rid of them and then get toys that I want on demand when I need it.
I have to say that is brilliant. Oh my gosh. Love these. Okay. And so now let's jump away from the buy side and let's jump into the sell side.
Yes. So on the sell side, it's as a business or any business that's offering a subscription, the benefit is that consistent, predictable revenue that your company will get from your customer base year after year. And that's what people value. And it's something that people value on the buy side and the sell side. I want to go on budget what I'm going to spend as a business or as an individual. And I want to know that that's going to be predictable. As the sell side, I too want to be able to have that predictable revenue. I know that's going to come in. And that's why you see, they call these the SaaS unicorn companies that are selling at a multiple of 10x their revenue. So those are your SaaS unicorns, right? Like Slack, who just went through a huge IPO, the Googles, the Salesforce, Intuit, Workday, Shopify, Oracle, Adobe, like those are your unicorns. If you look at other SaaS companies, if you're private or you're not public yet, you're growing, your multiple probably 5 to 7, right? It depends, but it's that multiple that people like to see. And we're seeing companies actually pivot. Twilio was kind of seen more as a telecom company, and they're trying to switch into the SaaS subscription model as well, because they're going to get that higher multiple and build out more subscription products. And so just with subscription, when you think about pricing, it's getting into, what's that value that people want, and they can go and consume more, and they can consume it on demand. And so it benefits everybody from buy side, sell side, consumers, businesses.
Yeah, you certainly do see huge valuations. And I think a lot of it has to do with that customer lifetime value, the fact that we've got a predictable revenue stream. 70% of next year's revenue is already booked this year.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's the benefit. You know what's coming in through that door, and you're kind of getting into an important area too, where it goes into, while you want to bring in new customers, you want to retain existing customers, because that lifetime value where people just keep coming back. I'm sure if you subscribe to Netflix or Amazon Prime, I've been an Amazon Prime member for 5-10 years, and I just keep paying. I'm a Costco member, right? I've had my Costco membership for over 10 years. That consistent revenue is what businesses like to see, and there's a huge valuation to that.
yeah, absolutely. I didn't ask this question, but let's jump back for a second. What does Hired do? And
Yes. So Hired, we are helping tech talent find jobs that they love. And we're a marketplace that matches the tech talent with the world's most innovative companies. And so how do we do this? We basically combine intelligent job matching with personalized career counseling. So think of career coaches to help people find jobs they love. And the thing that makes us different out there is, instead of candidates and talent applying to companies, which is the traditional model, we're flipping the recruiting model. So on our platform, candidates come in, they create a profile, and then companies reach out to request an interview with them. So you jump straight to the interview. And we started out really as a traditional marketplace about 5 years ago. So by marketplace, I mean, think of like your Ubers, your Lyft, Airbnb, Postmates, right? Marketplaces have supply and demand, people coming in looking for something, and then someone else offering a good or service, and we match them up. But the unique thing about Hired is, in June of last year, we announced that we're moving to a subscription model. So instead of just a transaction, which is common with Uber and Lyft, you take your ride, you pay that fee, that transaction is done. We're actually moving into a subscription model. And Hired is now evolving into a marketplace plus a SaaS model. So what does it mean? It means that we're defining this new category of a marketplace business model with a SaaS product to drive lock-in. And that's kind of where my expertise in subscription pricing, packaging, promotions, and strategy come into play here.
is it companies that subscribe or employees that subscribe?
Yeah, great question. So for our model, it's the employers that are coming in and paying a subscription to have access to our different talent pool to go and hire candidates. So tech candidates can come and join for free, right? So they are our supply. They come in and we make sure we always have that healthy supply so we can have liquidity. And on the demand side are the companies that are trying to recruit tech talent. They pay us the subscription to come there and find high quality candidates that have high intent.
And that makes so much sense because a company, even if a company wasn't growing, there's turnover, so they do frequent hiring.
Yes, you get it. Not only are you trying to hire for your existing headcount, but attrition, right? A lot of people don't think about attrition. And if you look at the stats out there, right, the average tech person probably stays in their job for a year and a half, maybe 2 years max. And so they're moving. So that attrition and that cost of bringing in new employees and new headcount. And then the third part is growth, right? Are companies going to stay the same they are today as tomorrow? You hope they're growing. So then what's that growth? And so with all three of those, there is a huge demand for tech talent and our platform.
Well, it just makes a ton of sense. Okay, well then let's price it.
Yeah.
Do you use a pricing metric?
Yes, we do use a pricing metric here. And in most places—
Define for us, what do you think a pricing metric is? How do you think about it? And then I'd love to hear what you guys do.
Yeah, so when it comes to pricing metrics, depends if you're a B2B or a B2C customer, or if you're, a B2B or B2C business, because there are different metrics that speak to different users. And it's important to understand that. It's also important to understand what vertical you're in, what kind of business you're in, and also what kind of geography you're in. And when it comes to metrics, you also want one that scales. So the idea is the more somebody uses something, the price goes up. But then, to balance that, also has to be predictable and in line with alternatives and their, ROI. So there's a lot of different things that one has to balance. And when it comes to metrics, is it, one time? Is it fixed? Or is it unlimited and has a cap? Does it scale with, your user or your unit? Then you want the flexibility for different size companies that you're selling to. So there's a lot that comes into a metric. It sounds really simple, but when you start unpacking it, there's a lot of answers that have to be, a lot of questions that have to be answered before you figure out your right metric. Because you want to get that right. And then do you even expose the metric to your customer, right? Or does it appear unlimited to their end on their side? So it's, then what do you show your customer? Because whatever you end up pricing things at, you want to be very simple for your customer, easy to understand, but behind the scenes, it can be very complex with a lot of analysis and assumptions going into it.
Yeah, and I often think about this problem with, we've got a pricing metric, so I want to charge by the transaction, or maybe in the hired world, we would say we're charging based on the interview or the number of job openings or something like that. And we have that as the metric, but it doesn't mean that's exactly what we're charging for. It just means that's what our metric is. And then we might also have good, better, best feature sets that we're using, and different companies would care about different feature sets. Maybe that's based on the type of employees they're interviewing for.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And so those are all really common ways to do it. So here we do a version of good, better, best, and we have a metric that scales. And so, based on our company maturity and size, and the fact that we do have many different products, we're able to go and gate all those different products into good, better, and best. And if you look at, small companies that are just getting started, maybe a seed company or a Series A, a lot of time they don't really have metrics, or they have one metric and maybe it's unlimited users, unlimited usage of something, because they're just getting started and they're really focused on adopting and getting, increased adoption in users. But as a company grows, you become more sophisticated and you've got some data, you know what's working in the market, then you begin to get more sophisticated with what's your metric. Let's now gate features, right, in the product roadmap, because as you gate different features, that also requires a lot of time from the product side. And then as you just get bigger into a larger enterprise company, you start going public, you maybe have some acquisitions under your belt, partnerships, you're white labeling products, right? Then you start getting very complex in your offerings, and you can really start to have different metrics that scale, that have different bands and rate cards. You can have different types of packages, different SKUs, standalone SKUs to upsell, to cross-sell, but then you're dealing with how do you make pricing simple again? And so depending on your customer size, right, you're trying to solve different problems when it comes to your metric and how you package it up.
Right. You're trying to grow with your customer. As your customer grows and gets more value, you want to make sure you're making more revenue from it.
Exactly.
So fascinating. I have to say, the company that I've always loved the way they do pricing is LinkedIn. And it's because they have these different market segments. You predefine what segment you're in.
Yep.
And they offer you essentially a good, better, best package once you're inside the market segment. So to the buyer, it looks really simple. But behind the scenes, there's nothing simple about it.
Exactly. You always want to make it very simple to the buyer. And when the buyer is purchasing it, there's clear articulation of, okay, I understand this. I see the value. It makes sense based on my alternatives. I get it, right? I want to buy it. I've actually seen, and been on calls where a customer will say, I didn't buy X product because I just didn't understand their pricing. When I asked them to explain it to me, they couldn't tell me. Okay, I would have bought them and used them, but the fact that they couldn't articulate it to me, I felt like, am I getting ripped off here? Are they just guessing on what pricing is? They don't know what the value is. If they don't, then I'm not going to buy that product. And so it's, really important that not only is it clear and understandable to the customer, but that they get it and you can talk about it.
Yeah. So Natalie, in my studies of this whole subscription pricing piece, it seems obvious that there are these three revenue buckets, and yet not all subscription companies, especially the ones that aren't super mature, think about all three of these buckets. And those buckets are customer acquisition, customer retention, and customer expansion. Mm-hmm. And so you often see the acquisition, right? We got to go win new customers. And then you see people switching into, we have to reduce churn. We got it. So those two buckets are there. But people don't often focus on expansion. Do you see that as well? Is that something that you guys have to fight?
I think people that are good and on top of their pricing strategy are thinking about all of these, right? Should always be thinking about all of these on how you want to grow your business. But within a given month or a quarter, right, depending on what's happening with your business, you may say, okay, our priority this quarter is retention, or the priority this quarter is acquisition, or depending on, the stage of your company. But all three of those are something we should always, pricing people or companies should always have their pulse on. And yes, those metrics are all important to help to drive a company. Depends which ones you want to prioritize in the moment.
Yeah, I could certainly see why expansion isn't that crucial for a seed stage, startup company, early stage. But the more mature you get, the more important expansion becomes.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's where you get into we're going to tweak features. We're going to create different good, better, best packages, new market segments, get the right pricing metric.
Yes, because you can get to a point where you have your product, and then if someone loves your product, your customers, they want more and they demand more. That happened to Hired, right? A lot of our customers loved our product and they said, we want more. What else can you give us? And so that's where, our product team grew, our engineering team grew, and we started offering more products. And that's when we started pivoting into a subscription SaaS model to say, okay, we're going to deliver, right, a product roadmap, and here's our version of good, better, and best. And, when it comes to this, if there's a market demand and great product fit, then absolutely, let's go and expand. I mean, we just acquired a company here as well, an assessment company, and we're rolling out a new assessment product, as a standalone SKU. And we're growing not only organically, but also through acquisition.
Okay, I want to talk about your title of Director of Product Marketing for a second. Because when I think of pricing, I usually think that belongs to product management more than product marketing. And when I think of tweaking product packages, I think that belongs to product management more than that belongs to product marketing. Why do you have those?
Yep. And so that's a great question, because at Oracle, I was in the product management organization responses. I was in product marketing. Here at Hired, I'm in product marketing. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which group it sits in, because it's definitely a cross-functional collaboration, right? The stakeholders need to be in all these different groups. I am owning it because of my deep expertise in pricing and packaging. So I am owning that here at Hired, but I work really closely with our product managers. And at Oracle, I sat in the product management organization. So we all work together, because as I'm thinking about pricing strategy and metrics and how we're going to package and price, I need to work with the product managers to make sure that, can we gate those features, right? Can we actually architect the product that way? And I mean, there was a pricing project I worked on for over a year, almost a year and a half at Oracle. And it was for one of our mobile products. We were doing SMS messaging, and that involved a third party. So when you involve a third party in some of these pricing conversations and they have a hard cost, it makes it so complex of how do you build the product so that we can deliver it seamlessly to the customer and make pricing really easy. And in that case, we had to architect a way to go and sell SMS messages for marketing automation in a way where we can bring in our third parties in a seamless way to our customer. And I had to work with our engineers and our product managers to build that architecture. They all now have they filed for patents for what we built there. And so that's why working with product is really important. So whether I sit in product or product marketing, it doesn't matter. I can sit in any organization. It's making sure you have the right person that has an eye on the product, has an eye on the competition, the market, sales, is talking to finance, knows our ideal customer profile. And so whoever that person is, they can sit anywhere, but they have to be able to, be in touch with all those different stakeholders.
Okay, so then tell us about the process of tweaking the product and the pricing. We'll assume that you're in the expansion phase now. We're trying to figure out how do we get more revenue from how do we get our customers to grow? We'll put it that way. And so you're about to tweak the product portfolio and the pricing. What are you thinking?
Yes, so tweaking the product and pricing, I'm basically thinking about that all the time. It's never something you kind of just like set and forget, like your Ronco, Showtime, rotisserie chicken. Anyone that remembers those. But you're always looking at it, and pricing has its own roadmap, right? Just like product has their roadmap and they're developing products, just like pricing is constantly being refined. We're always evolving it, based on something that happened maybe from a competitor. We need to respond to that. And so there are so many things that can trigger pricing. Like you said, a product launch, are we retiring features? What are our competitors doing? Maybe we had a feature that was a differentiator no one had, and our competitors rolled out the same thing. Okay, we can't charge a premium anymore, right? There's someone else that's offering this product. Are we expanding into new geographies or verticals? Are we partnering with people, white labeling? I mean, there's so many reasons why pricing needs to be changing. So it always is and is evolving. But to get into the process, I first start with okay, what's our goal, right? What do we want to achieve? And then from that, there's different levers that I can pull when it comes to pricing. And some of those levers, feel free if you know any other levers as well. But the levers that I can pull are my pricing metric, my pricing structure, my packaging, which is my gating of different features, my actual price points, my promotions. Do I want to run promotions for this quarter or the whole year? Trials, pilots, proof of concepts. How do we roll those out? A lot of people say, do you ever buy a car that you don't test drive? No. So shouldn't we let people test drive our product, especially if you're a disruptor in the space and there are no competitive products? What's my discounts and my policies around that, right? Those are different levers I can pull. How do I bundle? Do I charge overages? Is there a usage? What are my payment terms? And then how does sales talk about it? Because you can have this beautiful pricing strategy, but if sales doesn't know how to talk about it and articulate value, then things fall flat. And then objection handling. Does sales know how to talk about and handle objections when it comes to our pricing or competitors? What do I enforce in contracts? Because a lot of times you have pricing and packaging, you've had the right conversation, then there's something in your contract that doesn't make sense, and now your customer isn't happy. And, how do you architect this in the product, right? I've talked about people have gotten patents before because we had to rechange the way we built a product so that pricing can be easier. How does it look in your Salesforce instance or whatever CRM you're using? Your deal desk, how do you support this and operationalize it? And then getting into like my pricing tools, how do you build a quote, SKU management? So those are kind of like all the levers I'm pulling depending on what my goal is. If you feel like there's more, let me know. I'd love to talk about it. Those are kind of the ones off the top of my head I can think of.
All I could say is wow. And I may go back and listen to this slowly and list those for the show notes just so that people can see all those.
Uh-huh.
That was amazing. Now, the only thing I didn't hear you mention as a lever, which I think is kind of important, is do I change prices on current customers or just new customers?
Great question. And so, yes, there's a different way that you want to treat your existing customers who you're already partnering with versus net new. I would say whenever there's a significant pricing change, existing customers should be grandfathered in to some degree. You don't want to disrupt what they're doing too much until you get to some kind of a expiration of their contract. And depending on their usage, you need to have those right conversations. But if you roll out, anytime we're rolling out new pricing and significant changes, net new customers, absolutely. Right? You can go and sell to them. But for your existing install base, you can't, because they're locked into a contract already, right? They've already taken a chance on you, and maybe you've given them significant discounts for different reasons, but those have to be treated differently than your net new customers. So yes, that is absolutely an important lever as well. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. Natalie, I have enjoyed this immensely. Just so the audience knows, I've been studying this topic for months now. Mm-hmm. I just got schooled by Natalie. Mm-hmm. So I guess you didn't say anything I didn't know, but what I find fascinating is it just rolls off your tongue like this is second nature. And I'm putting all the pieces together. This was fabulous. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to talk about this anytime. Sometimes I feel like I think and dream in pricing.
I can imagine. So last big question. Mm-hmm. What's one piece of pricing advice that you could give our listeners that you think might have a big impact, especially on companies that are in subscriptions?
Yeah, I feel like, pricing is an art and a science, and you have to do your research. And, you have to find the right people to focus on it. And it's something you always have to keep your eye on. And so whether you go and use an external consultant or you bring someone in-house, it's something you can't ignore and something you have to have early conversations about because it has a direct impact on profits and is a strategic lever to help your company grow.
Yeah, you have to focus on pricing. You have to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's pricing transform companies and increase ACV, and you can do it really quickly with pricing. So we're on the same page here. Hopefully everyone else is after these podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. So Natalie, if anyone wants to contact you, how can they do that?
Yes, they can find me on LinkedIn, Natalie Louie. I can also search by my company. I'm at Hired. Find me on LinkedIn and connect with me there. Okay,
excellent. And to our listeners, here's the question of the week. What is pricing? Now that one's hard. You want to try to answer that one? No, Natalie, you can answer that after we stop recording.
Okay. We won't give away the answer now.
Right. So to our listeners, post your answers on LinkedIn. I'll write the question out so you'll see it there. Keep it pithy and interesting, and the best answer will get a signed copy of my book, Impact Pricing. All right, episode 9 is in the can. We have more great guests coming in the future. If you get value out of our podcast, would you please tell your friends about it and leave us a review wherever fine podcasts are distributed? It will really help us out. And any comments you might have, feel free to send to me directly, mark@impactpricing.com. And finally, please join us next week for another episode of Impact Pricing.